it is our blueprint. To understand the magnitude of the rise, we must first honor the depth of the roots. Our roots are not just a memory of a homeland. They are the living, breathing legacy of resilience. They are the unbreakable spirit that turned barren soil into fields of sustenance. They are the
that we're looking at. We are coming out of the British oppression and the neo-colonialistic environments where other people have built their empires on us, with us, in our own homesteads. But there's a science to colonizing people. There's a science to oppressing people. There's a science in building a system which survives years after you're gone. Cecil John Rhodes is dead. David Livingstone is dead. Verwoerd is dead. But the systems that they put in place are still working. How will Africa think of building an empire if we are not thinking of building systems? I'll give you the 7 pillars of those systems. System number 1, how are we going to govern ourselves? Governance is number 1. On governance, we're looking at putting systems of power, regulations, military, security. How do we want to rule ourselves? I'm so glad to say this from China. China does not have as many churches as Africa does. Instead of churches, they have factories. So it's true that you don't need too much Jesus in the system as you need factories. You can't be stupid as an African to come here to fundraise to build a church back home. There's something wrong in your head. You cannot buy a factory and then call members to come and pray for employment when you are in a factory that you have just purchased. You need to understand that spirituality can be practiced best when people have eaten and they are full. And find out the poorest nations in the world. What are their priorities? Prayers, fasting, conferences, breakthrough conferences. You know what I'm talking about, good people. Don't try to look religious here. Breakthrough, they're always praying. And how do you know that they are really poor when they start importing American evangelists? Then you know they're on steroids now. They will have all-night prayers and lots of lights. And this thing, I wish I can run Africa just for 1 week. The first thing, I'll close all the churches and make them into factories and industries. So governance is number 1. Next to governance, you need to find out how are you going to deal with the agriculture. not just agriculture, but agriculture. Agree with our culture, the culture of food. There's no way you can build an empire that is borrowing food from next door. How are you going to feed yourselves? Automatically you go there, we are touching a very sensitive note on GMO foods, the Monsantos, and all these dead foods that the West is dumping onto Africa. And I love China. They are good on organic, indigenous food. For not food security, that's for poverty. Food sustainability. Plant food that can sustain itself, that can duplicate and recreate itself. This whole thing of we are sending maize to Africa, we are sending maize, too much diabetes. That food is not food, man. That in America they do maize to feed animals. Then why are they sending it to Africa? And by the way, maize just came to Africa the last 110 years ago. So it's not our staple food. We're our different kind of coin. Let's find those organic indigenous foods, remembering that he who feeds you will rule you. You can't talk too much when the spoon of food is in the hands of another man. You have to be very nice to them because they may just stop giving you food. You need independence when it comes to food. Governance, number two, agriculture, the culture of food, not just eating food. How is it prepared? How is it powdered? How is it planted? How is it harvested? Why are women putting seeds underneath their tongues before they put them in the ground? What is the DNA of food? And etc. That whole culture has been lost with commercial farming. And I think one of the worst things Africa has done is to commercialize farming and remove women from farming. Because it is women who actually had the DNA of food. Because it is from their hands that are built. Julius Caesar, you see him. Charlemagne, you see him. Genghis Khan, you see him. Anyone who has walked this path and have been able to educate people about themselves, they write their names on the annals of history. You cannot be said you are an empire who is memorizing William Shakespeare, Charles Dickens, no longer it is. Dost thou sayest, my lord, will you go hunt? You don't build an empire on borrowed language. Start learning, not about them. Start learning more about yourselves. Education. You can't memorize how many capital cities are in the world, and then that's an examination. And when you have remembered the capital city of Angola, Luanda, the capital city of Kinshasa, Addis Ababa, then you say, oh, you're educated. Like, really? Memorizing capital cities and names of presidents of countries, then you're educated. Come on, you can do better than that. Like a country like Zimbabwe, for example, you have 482 minerals that are underneath your ground, which your students don't know. You're only talking about the first 62. And you go to school, the very stones we're using for throwing on animals, they are rare earth minerals, and we still don't know. And all of us have been to school, even hiding in China here, when your grandmother's field is sitting on top of a uranium mine that you don't know. So why is education always external? It must be internal. Number four, business, economics, and trade. And any empire. I'm glad to be here in Gonzo on the channel of the silk trade market. Here is how China was built through these rivers. Shipping silk, harvesting from indigenous farmers, making its way into India, into Europe, to the ends of the world. These waters that you are seeing here were the very umbilical cord that have built these megalithic structures that you are looking at. Look at your point of advantage as Africans. What is it that you can take to the world? How do you build those trade routes and markets? And not only markets, create value chains. From manufacturing, production, reproduction, more processing, to the end of it. I mean, walk around this beautiful place, you find beautiful silk materials. It's not just about producing the silk, but they're able also to make products out of their own silk. Now here you are in Africa producing the best minerals. And next thing you do, you don't even know. I mean, even coffee. You can't even make coffee from Africa. It must come from Germany. It must come from Belgium. It must. Then what are we doing? Take the resource, value chain it, process it, own the entire process, and make money out of that. That's where employment comes in. Number five, sports, recreation, entertainment. Any empire builds its own sports, builds its own entertainment. That's why Rome and its Colosseums, beautiful celebrations which are standing up to date, show an empire that stood. You think you're going to build empires on soccer? I'm Real Madrid, I am Chelsea, I'm Liverpool. Come on, wake up, smell the coffee. You don't own that team. You just have a jersey. You're not a shareholder of that team. Build your own sports. Build your own entertainment. Love Hollywood. I happen to be in the music and in the film industry. I told myself a good thing. I no longer watch TV. I make TV. If I'm not in it, I'm not watching it. Same thing when it comes to clothes and brands. Stop buying brands. Own the brands. There's a difference. Own the brand. Don't buy brands. Make it yourself. And being here in China, ladies and gentlemen, it gives you such a huge opportunity to be creative, to be imaginative, and walk up to these industries where brands are made, are designed, logos are turned into things, and you can fill up the whole world with the next Fendis, the next Gucci's, the next Hermes, the next everything else. You are where it is made. Create those brands. Don't just be shipping us to Africa second-hand Italian brands. Create brands in your villages. Name them after your grandmothers. Name them after your cows and your goats back home. Do something that is different. Health and technology. Another